Hello, I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel. This is the weekly angel card reading for the week beginning November the 20th through to the 26th, 2017. So we're rapidly approaching at the end of the year. So we'll start shuffling and see what cards, what messages the angels have to tell us for Monday. And I'll go through and do a different card for each day. Some readers like to use the same deck for a week. I like to mix it up and use a different one. And I like that we can often see trends emerging, even though we've used completely different cards. So there's no right or wrong way to do this stuff, because it's all intuitive at the end of the day, which is why you need to use your own intuition to decipher what the meaning is for you. Oh, finally. Parents. Okay, couple of different meanings here. Major one that they're showing me is that some of you have got some issues with your parents, which is not uncommon. I know there's this idea, if you read Hallmark cards or watch any sort of TV commercial, particularly around Mother's Day or Father's Day, there's this idea that we have great relationships with our parents and those never go through any tension. But the reality is that our parents are the ones who raised us and would have made a lot of mistakes doing so, because they're human. In the same way that you will be making mistakes with your own kids, because that's just how it goes, unfortunately. So some of you may be holding resentment towards your parents for something they did or something they didn't do for you. Some of you might be butting heads with them just simply because you're very different people and you rub each other up the wrong way. Whatever's going on for you, they are saying this is more to do with resentment rather than everyday kind of tensions. But if that's where you're at, just come at this from your circumstances to try and move past that. Now, whatever the scale of what has happened, try not to think of it in terms of right and wrong, because when we get hung up on right and wrong, we get really stuck and then we're not able to move forward. You know, sometimes that's why we hold on to grudges and resentments, because we think, well, I was right. And if you think if you let go of that pain around that, you're saying that they were right, and actually that's not the case. So try to get out of that polarizing thinking and instead focus on, what does my inner child need? If you were talking to yourself as a child, what would your child need? What would that child need? Reassurance, comfort, to know its value, to know its worth, to know that it matters, and to know chiefly that it's loved. And that's the best thing you can do for yourself in this situation, is to remind yourself that you're very loved and that what happened in the past was very painful, but you don't have to be defined by it. You're the one who writes your story, not your parents, not anybody else in your childhood. So try to look for ways to move past what happened. It doesn't mean it will ever go away necessarily, but you want to make sure it doesn't hurt so much that it's blocking your heart and adversely affecting the way you show up for relationships, particularly in the way you show up to parent yourself. So that might be through forgiveness exercises, because we've had a few of those recently. Messages along those lines, or it might be maybe you do feel like you need to have a conversation with your parents about that. That may not go well, so just be wary. The problem with history is that we all see it the way we saw it, and sometimes it's very difficult to understand people to retrospectively see how their actions have affected people. In an ideal world they would, of course, but I'm just making you realise that sometimes forgiveness is something, and finding peace is something we do best on our own and not involving other parties. So find a way to move forward. Now, if you've got no issues whatsoever with your parents, which is awesome, this could be telling you simply to get in touch with them, to say hello, to reconnect, to strengthen that bond, or it could even be letting you know that you're doing a great job as a parent yourself. So there must be something in there for you. It's very difficult, obviously. I have to be very general, because a lot of different people are watching this, coming from very different circumstances. But yeah, no matter what's going on, we all have some sort of relationship with our parents, even if they've passed on. Something about, we still have a relationship with people, because after we pass on, the energy is still around. So we need to make peace with anything, any hurt, or any, sorry, I just stopped the laptop, any sort of any lack of connection there, I guess I could put it that way. So let's move on to Tuesday. Balanced friendships. Now this comes up a lot well, not a lot in these sort of cards, but it comes up a lot for people who struggle with boundaries when I'm doing personal readings with them. And it's to let you know, if you have someone who's taking advantage of you, if you live in Australia or New Zealand, you'd say someone taking the piss. Apologies to anyone who doesn't understand that saying, or perhaps thinks it's a bit inappropriate, but that's a colloquialism we use when people are taking advantage. So it is speaking to friendships, but it may be that it's someone that you work with or someone that you're related to even. This card is asking you to be mindful of who is taking from you more than they're giving. Now, we shouldn't really be taking like a stock take of our friendships and going, well, I gave her this and she's never given me, you know, like she paid for drinks that time and I never paid, you know, like you don't want it to be a check and balance kind of system, but you will be very aware if someone is taking more than they're giving. They are ringing you constantly to dump their problems on you and never asking how you are, or they're asking in a cursory kind of way, not really listening to the answer. So that's an energetic imbalance, and it's not healthy. It's not good for you. It's actually not good for them either. That's not your responsibility though. Sometimes people think they're being nice by letting people do what they want to do, or by letting people treat them the way that they treat them, even though it's badly. They think that that's, you know, they're being kind. Actually, it's not being very kind, because you're enabling their bad behaviour, and it's also not being kind to yourself, and that is your primary responsibility, is to be kind to yourself. So be mindful of the way you're being treated in platonic relationships here. Really step up and set some boundaries, because sometimes, and I get messages about this every now and then from people, and I find it very strange because I've never had a problem with boundaries. I'm quite good at not letting people take advantage of me. But I know some people struggle with it, and the reason they struggle is they think that the other people should know that they're being disrespectful. But the thing is, people will always treat you the way you allow them to treat you. That's really important to remember. So you can't expect people to stop treating you this way, because it's not fair. This is an opportunity for you to step up and say, this is not fair, and to show the universe that you know your worth. The universe will keep sending you these situations until you do it. That's why we keep attracting, whenever there's a cycle or a pattern, it repeats until we learn the lesson. Nothing ever goes away until it's taught you what you need to know. So it's very important that you step up for yourself, stand up for yourself. So that doesn't mean you have to be horrible about it. You can be assertive from a place of love. You can even make up an excuse if that's what you want to say. No, actually, I can't help you move your house again because I've got family coming in from out of town. Whatever it is, you can, anything like that, because it is not your responsibility to let people treat you badly. That's being a doormat. Nobody is here to be a doormat. Nobody. There's no way the universe would put you here for that. So please step up, be kind to yourself, and make sure that you are being treated with respect. So remember, if you're going to say something to someone, say what you mean what you say, but don't say it in a mean way. Really important advice. That's from Alexandra Solomon, who's a relationships expert. Now, if there's anything else I need to tell you in this, also make sure that you are not being the one who is not giving someone else enough back. If you are speaking more than you're listening, it might be for you. This card might be for you, that you need to be more respectful to other people. So Wednesday, 22nd. So we're almost at the end of, that did not go well. Actually, it's landed where it was supposed to, I'm being told. Sometimes the clumsiness is not an accident. So Wednesday we have the ocean. So there's this great quote I use a lot, that salt water is the cure for anything, and it talks about sweat, tears, and the ocean. They're all great healers. So if you are in a position where you have the ocean near you, or you perhaps you enjoy swimming in it, this is an invitation for you to reconnect with that. Particularly if you're a water sign, a Cancer, a Scorpio, or a Pisces. You've got a strong connection with water. I often advise people to go to the water when they're struggling with emotions. Elizabeth Gilbert always says, if you are hurting, get to the water. It can be a river, it can be even a lake, something with movement, because what happens when you're stuck in an emotion, you're stuck essentially, and the movement of the water is what encourages the flow of energy in your energy fields that will help shift those blocks, shift those emotions. there's nothing wrong with being sad or being, you know, whatever you're feeling. You're entitled to your emotions and they're all valid. You just want to make sure you don't get stuck, because that's when you start to block blessings from the universe. So get to the ocean if it's possible for you to do so. If not, there are other ways to cleanse your energy field or to get healing. Walking outside among nature, around nature, whatever you want to go with there, can be very healing. I do feel the water is more powerful in this instance, but I realise it's not practical for anyone. I do often talk about bathing in Epsom salts. That's a really powerful way of cleansing your energy field. Flotation therapy is another one, or maybe even have a massage. That could also help you. Actually, they're saying some of you really do just need to have a good cry. So, which can be difficult if you were brought up in a family where you were taught boys don't cry, or harden up, or any of those sort of things, or you just got to suck it up and get on with it, or whatever it is. But you need to know that it is totally valid to let those feelings out, and if you don't, they will eat away at you. Thursday, and affect the way you relate to other people. Thursday moon cycles. This hardly ever comes up. So I know we just had a new moon on Saturday, which was in Scorpio. And this card, actually I've just had a connection come through from this. So when I talk about the ocean, the reason the wave's moving obviously is because the moon's controlling them. So if you think about that movement in terms of a powerful entity controlling movement, this might help give you some insight into what this card means. So a couple of things. For the ladies watching, you might be familiar with the word moon cycle for your period. Maybe there's something going on there that you need to, maybe you're having some problems there, any irregularities that you need to do something about. Get some medical, I don't know, whoever you go see, a naturopath, your GP, or whatever, probably a GP, I'm guessing, if it's that sort of situation. That might be the problem, not the problem, but the message here for you. The other thing, in terms of the moon, because we haven't got a key moon cycle, a key moon transit right now, remember that we're always under the influence of the previous one until the new one comes in. So we're still under the influence of the new moon in Scorpio until the full moon next month comes through, which I believe is in Gemini. I'll talk more about that closer to the time. So if you're still feeling the effects of the Scorpio new moon, that could be anything from Scorpio is all about rebirth, transformation, letting things go, letting go of the old to make way for the new. So you could be getting provoked in that sense. It's also about sensuality. Could be about your sex life. It's needing a bit of attention. Could be about, what's the Scorpio about? That's all that really comes to mind right now. There are a lot of things, but I don't want to go too deep into this. The other thing I would say, oh goodness, it's 13 minutes already. I'm only up to card 4. The other thing is, if you think about the cycles of your life, make sure you're honouring those. If you are, there could be cycles to do with the seasons. Perhaps if you're in the northern hemisphere, you're coming into autumn or fall. So maybe this is a time for, that's all about letting things go as well. Dead leaves fall off, and then there's a shutdown period while new things can kind of percolate. And here in the southern hemisphere, we are in spring, so we're all about new things growing and blossoming, and the seeds that we've sown are coming into fruition. It could also be cycles in terms of where you're at. Maybe you're in a low energy cycle, you need more sleep, maybe you need to honour that. Maybe you've got go, keep going with that. So just honour where you're at and try not to force yourself to be anywhere else. Friday, yeah. Gosh, there's so many different meanings with that, and I feel I've gone way off track, but perhaps someone listening to this needed that. Friday, commitment. Okay, commitment means a lot of different things to different people. Most people will think of it in terms of relationships. If that's the case for you, I do feel there is an energy here for people who are in relationships needing to be more committed to those, to be more invested in where that relationship is going, and to make sure they're doing what they can to honour that as a priority, not letting their partner be taken for granted or that sort of relationship fall by the wayside. But for a lot of you, this is going to be about your goals. So really commit to your goals and make sure your actions are in alignment with those goals, with your intentions. So the example that I could give for this is somebody who wants a new job but refuses to look for one. It's not really going to help you, is it? So another example I give is someone who wants a long-term relationship but keeps going on these dates with men that they know are not right for them. So, you know, I mean, those are ways that we don't act in alignment with what we really want. So really commit to what you actually want. You want your business to succeed. Well, how are you investing in making sure that happens? Are you following up leads? Are you chasing customers? Or are you waiting for it all to come to you? Really commit to it. Saturday. I always lose track of what day I'm up to. Now, what I meant to say earlier, when I drew a card and started talking about that, is we've come to the end of Scorpio season this week and we're in Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is the most optimistic sign of the zodiac. They're all about positivity. They are also famously good at talking, or you might say bad at talking because they often don't have any tact. God love them for it. So you might have Sagittarius as your sun, moon, or rising sign, or you might even have it, you know, a key planetary transit going on with Sagittarius right now. So be aware that those sorts of things might be coming up for you. Maybe you need to be a bit more cautious with your communication, or particularly we've got a Mercury retrograde, oh goody, coming up in a couple of weeks. And then the other thing with Sagittarius is this could be an opportunity for you to take a more sunny outlook. So Saturday, spend more time outdoors. Here's one I don't need to talk too much about because everybody gets it. I do love this Archangel Michael deck because the messages are just so direct to the point. You need to get outside more. So that's really a big theme here, I would say, given we've had this ocean one. And even, you know, the moon. So more, there's like an earthy sort of energy coming through here. A need to reconnect, to be grounded. To be really anchored into our surroundings and our environment. So that could mean you maybe go and buy a whole lot of plants from the nursery and clean up your garden. It could mean that you join an environmental rally or action group, perhaps, anything like that. Or it also could just mean you take your family and you go to a park and you have a great time outside. Sunday. Isaiah, it's a good time to give birth to new ideas. Okay, well, I was just talking about seasons in terms of things ending and new things coming because it's been very topical with Scorpio, but also in terms of cycles here. So this is all about coming up into a season of new things coming up. Change is very scary. Human beings are not wired to adapt. Well, I was going to say we're not wired to adapt very well, but evolution proves otherwise in terms of the fact that we've adapted to everything that's happened so far. But we can be reluctant to do that, I would say. So I would say this is, you know, it's really an ego trick. Maybe it's Freudian slip. So the ego wants things to stay the same because that keeps you safe, because it knows how things are for you right now. It can protect you because there's nothing unpredictable happening. But when change happens, look, we don't know what's going to happen, and that can be very scary and provoking for the ego. And that's why we can sometimes resist things like applying for new jobs or accepting promotions or anything like that. So, but this is asking you to have faith in the new changes that are coming up for you. You are being protected by the universe. Everything is going to be okay. So take a deep breath and step forward into it. It's going to be okay. It might not be easy, but it will be okay, and it is right. So trust in those changes, particularly if they're ones you've been looking for, because one thing humans do is self-sabotage sometimes. In The Alchemist talks about this a lot. The time when human beings are most likely to quit their goals is just before they're about to come true. So, bit of a mixed bag. I think this being outside in nature is probably the predominant theme, and this idea of cycles in terms of letting go of the old and letting the new come through and trusting in that. So, yeah, we've got parents, balanced friendships, making sure, remember friendships, any sort of relationship is an exchange of energy. You really want that to be as equal as it can be, because if someone is not investing as much love as the other person, and they're too needy or too clingy, that's going to drain you. That's not a friendship. Any sort of relationship that's healthy will invigorate you. Yes, of course, you will be giving at the same time, but If it's equal, you're not going to be wiped out and completely drained by it. That's your sign that something's off. If you come away from chatting to that person and you feel completely drained, there's an energetic imbalance there, and you need to take responsibility for your own energy field and limit your time with that person and limit how much you invest in that. Where was I? The ocean. Moon cycles. I will try and find a more succinct way to explain that when I post it on social media on the day. Committing to our goals and our people. When I say people, obviously that seems a bit counterintuitive to this one, but I mean the people who matter. And I don't think anybody who's in an unbalanced friendship would say that that person is particularly important to them, because they will be harbouring resentment for the way they're treated. And that feeling is a cue for you to do something about it. Spend more time outdoors, and this idea of new ideas and new things, new changes coming through. So I'll post these on my social media. My Instagram is @OneGroundedAngel. My Facebook page is OneGroundedAngel. If you need to contact me, my website is www.onegroundedangel.com. There is a bookings form there. It's just had a refresh. It's looking great, and the connection actually works. So you can contact me now, which is good, because that was very embarrassing for a little while there. And yes, that's the best way to contact me. If you have any feedback, I no longer respond to DMs on Instagram because of the offensive material I can receive on those. So if you have any questions or comments, that's the best way to go about it. Of course, you can still comment on my cards and I will see those. If you want personal guidance, however, I really do recommend you get a personal reading, because I simply don't have time to, outside of all the free content I already supply, I just don't have the time or the energy to be giving free readings to people. So I hope you understand. And that's what it means to have boundaries. What an appropriate note to finish on. Thank you so much for your love and support. I send it all back to you, and I hope you have a terrific week. Take care.